I'm Chris Bussing. Welcome to my channel. It's committed to helping more people create freedom and impact in their life through success in tech sales and the pursuit of self-development. Man, I am so excited about my guest today. I know that I say that a lot, but Eru is one of my former teammates at Google, and he's the ultimate tech sales underdog story, or at least he embodies that ultimate journey from no experience and having the odds stacked against him as an immigrant who was homeless at one point, to not only breaking into tech sales, but breaking into tech sales at one of the greatest companies there is, Google. So if you're someone who's been dreaming about breaking into technology sales or a company like Google, but has struggled and feels discouraged, this conversation will uplift you and encourage you on your own journey. And we're also going to dig into practical tips on how to actually break in and be successful in tech sales. So with that, if you get value out of this video, give the like button a like because the YouTube algorithm likes that and will show this video to more people who could benefit from the message, and share this video with someone who you think it, could be encouraged by the message. So Eru, thank you so much for joining. And I just wanted to start out with this question. You went from homeless immigrant to working at Google for 14 years. Back at that point, when you were at your lowest of lows, would you have ever dreamed of being a top seller at Google?
No, I don't think I dreamt that far. It was an exciting. First of all, thank you very much, Chris, for getting me on this. I definitely appreciate you reaching out and trying to share my story, which I think is an opportunity for others to learn from as well. And I never believed the dream was going to go that far. It was a very bumpy road. I came into New York JFK with $25 in my pocket, just one small bag I had. And next thing I knew I was not going anywhere. And mentally I was prepared before I got into JFK that it's going to be a bumpy ride. So there was no dream like working for Google. That was not just in the picture at that time. However, I knew I was going to struggle and fight all kinds of odds against me. A little history behind that. My dad used to be one of the top civil servants in the richest state, then called Bender State in Nigeria. So I'd seen luxury, police guard the house, government cars, belong to a country club. I've seen the richest part of life before I came to the US. I remember telling my friends I was coming with no money because my dad got kicked out of the government because he was not one of the corrupt officials. Actually, the president then, Babangida, his wife wanted somebody from her ethnicity, I think Asaba, if I remember, to be the head of civil service. So I remember my dad telling me, not just me, my siblings, saying things are going to be different. I never could understand what he was saying. However, in no time, they caught the gardeners from working in the house, no police guarding the house. They kind of stripped us naked all of a sudden. 2 years later, I just felt it was time to get out. I wanted to go to England first or Australia because I played a lot of cricket. Cricket was my go-to thing. Nothing like cricket. And I played it to state and national level back in Nigeria. So I felt maybe there's an opportunity if I go to England, I could get a career. I went to college in Nigeria, University of Lagos. I might get a career in England or Australia. But I looked at Australia to be too far. England was just too, the economy then was really bad in '88. So I felt pivoted straight to the US. I said, focused on the US. And I got into the US, which was great. In the homeless shelter, just meeting all kinds of people. But the key thing I noticed being in the homeless shelter and my previous life in Nigeria is I believe in Christ. That's where my strength is. My Bible is here. This is the strength. Without God, you can't do anything. That's what I realized very early. With God's grace and guidance and favor, you can break any barrier. But you need to be patient. You need to be patient. You need to listen. You need to do the due diligence. So in the shelter, there was a lot. Remember a guy tried to kill me with a gun outside the shelter.
Wow.
And it was, at that point, I told him to just go ahead and shoot me. I gave him, because I worked at the car wash at that time. And I gave him, I think, about $20 or so. And somebody said, no, don't give him. Then I gave him later my Walkman. I had a small Walkman I bought for like $9 then. And he refused to pay me. And I told him, hey, I need my Walkman back. He said he had sold it out for drugs. He was going to go to New York City and back. And after selling the drugs, he's going to give me my money back. I said, no, I don't care what you do. Just give me my Walkman back. And he brought his gun and he said he was going to kill me. And he tried to shoot me, but he did not. He said I'm a good guy and God definitely loves me. But he never paid me. But we moved on. Shortly after I left the shelter, I realized life was bigger than it all. So I decided to pivot in the sense that, doing some odd jobs here and there. But the key thing, again, in the shelter is where your mind frame is. Your mind frame is so important. In any situation, there's no difference of being rich or being poor. Your mind frame, and to those who are trying to get to the next level on their own, you got to believe in somebody, again, greater than you. Let God help you. Whatever you believe in, in my case, is Christ. He needs to take you to the next level. And that's where my belief is. I realized that without him, I can't get to the next level. The other things that come with that, we might talk about that later, but being in a homeless situation is not a bad thing, provided your mind is sound. Your mind has to be sound. You have to know your purpose. Even when you're successful, success could be defined in various words, depending on the individual. You still have to be disciplined. Whatever situation, people always say, till I get this, then I'm okay. No, it's a deadline. You will always want something else, and again, that never changes. That's just, provided you're on this earth, you're going to test, you're going to hunger for something else. So being homeless was a good experience, a rude awakening for me, but I appreciated what God did that delivered me when I was homeless.
So what I heard is that in your state of homelessness, God and your faith was what gave you peace of mind, what gave you strength, and gave you what it takes to get to the next level. And that whether you're rich or poor, your mindset is what matters most. And is there anything you'd like to add to the lessons learned from being homeless? Because otherwise, I'd like to start to talk about how you discovered technology sales, because I believe that Google wasn't your first stop on the journey. But is there any other lessons learned from homelessness, or do we want to move on to tech sales?
For the homelessness and anything else there, I would say people should not look down at people being homeless because you don't really know what got them there. Because I saw a couple of other guys. One guy was an electrical engineer, and he had a mental problem. And we were talking, because I love mathematics. Mathematics is my strong point.
Yep.
And we talked about calculus, just solving equations, And we're in the homeless shelter, we're doing all this kind of stuff, but people looked at us as if we were crazy. But don't look down at homeless people. There's a story behind why they're in that situation.
Yeah, that's a great lesson. Who would think that maybe someone at the homeless shelter that I pass here in Austin might end up working at Google for 14 years and coming on to a podcast to share encouragement with people and have such a big heart. So that is such a great reminder. It's easy to make snap judgments. So how did you eventually discover tech sales? Like, let's say we're at the homeless shelter, like what were kind of the steps in the journey to get to a point of discovering tech sales and starting to actually like land your first job in tech sales?
I eventually ended up moving from the East Coast. I moved to the West Coast and worked as a nursing assistant at Stanford Hospital and also Lucille Packard Hospital as a nursing assistant. When I was there, I kind of like, I like numbers. I was looking at the machines. I think they were made by HP back then. The cardio machines, just looking at the machines, helping the nurses calculate some numbers. They were shocked at that time. Like, what are you doing here? What are you doing here? You have all this knowledge. I said, well, it's a temporary situation. I'm good. But interested enough, and I've come to realize sometimes in life, things are not going to change. You're going to be there for a while. And I was there for about 7 years, and I kept asking myself, what am I doing here? What am I doing here? 7 years I was there. But the key thing is you get to, regardless of what you are doing, you have to love what you do in that moment. And that's something we might talk about later, hopefully. Nothing brings joy to you than enjoying what you're doing in that moment. Whatever you expect is going to come, but that moment is crucial. You're going to learn a lot. And what I learned from being in the hospital, I know this is different from the question you're asking, is I took a lot of kids to the morgue when they pass out, eventually die. They come in, 50% of them on the oncology unit never survived. And the ability to stand taking a kid, like the youngest kid I took was a couple of months. I took her to the morgue. That made me realize, and when you get to the morgue, you see all these dead bodies and parts and everything. It kind of makes you feel there's something greater than you. We argue over little stuff. It does not really matter. Life is so short. Life is so precious. We take it for granted. And that's what I learned at the hospital, that life is short. Enjoy the moment because you never know when you're going to be gone. And it was a rude awakening for me because I felt I was everything. I could live, I could do what I wanted to do, but I realized quickly that's not what life is all about. Life is short, and don't complain. Don't think you can never get there. You will get there by God's grace. You have to believe and let God bless you. After a point, I was there for 7 years, and I told my mom died in 99. I went back to Nigeria, came back, and I quit. I said, I'm not going back there. That's the end of it all. And I met somebody at the Christmas party at Stanford, and the guy came up to me and said, hey, I see you're talking to every person. I want you to come work for us. I said, okay. So I went there as a recruiter for Robert Half. And for some reason, the interview went well, but the guy said I had an accent and the customers are not going to receive me. He never told me that, but my friend who eventually became very close told me that was the feedback. Then he goes, why don't you just go into accounting? I said, okay, perfect. That's a good opportunity. So I went there, I took the test for the accounting, and I got 60%. The guy goes, first time you're taking this test, you're getting 60%? He said, take it again. But I've taken accounting in college way back in Nigeria, you know, but it's the same principles. I took it again, I got 80%. He goes, I think you're ready to go. So guess what? He sent me to one company, and I just worked my way from that company as a junior accountant, just doing general ledger, payables, receivables. Eventually started doing budgeting down the road within a short time. So I moved, then they sent me to this company called Exos Software. Exos Software was a spin-off out of SAP. SAP does the implementation. Exos Software comes behind after the implementation, and we do the archiving. Nobody could beat Exos Software when it comes to archiving. We were the best of the best when it comes to SAP and archiving behind. EMC was the only big boy then that could come behind, that we were behind. Apart from EMC, Exos Software was the deal. So I was there for quite a while, for I think about 1 or 2 years. And my boss got jealous of me in the sense that he cut my commission. I was in the accounting team, and he saw that I was talking to people a lot, and he goes, wow, you keep talking to people. We need some help regarding our receivables. Can you help me? I said, oh, definitely. First month I was on the receivable team, I brought $4 million. The previous guy who was there brought $1 million. I brought him $4 million. And he said, wow, how do you do it? He said, I'm not surprised because I see you talk to all kinds of people outside our company. Everybody's coming to talk to you. Why are they coming to talk? I say, well, it's about reaching out to people. You can't be siloed, period. You just, in life, you have to like reach out to people, greet them, talk to them, find out their problems, find out how you could help them. Same thing, people do that to me as well. So why can't I also reciprocate, do the same thing to them? So after I started bringing some serious cash flow, I have a Corvette. He saw my Corvette. This was in 2000. And he goes, oh, you're making too much money. I'm going to go ahead and reduce your commission. Reason why he did that was there was a kid who he told me about in his church who came to the hospital from China. And you remember I'd worked at the hospital, so I know what it takes when a child is in that hospital. The parents are in a mess. And he reached out to me to help contribute to help the parents. So I said, definitely, because I know what it is for that child and the family to be in that hospital. So I gave them $3,000. And he goes, wow, you're giving $3,000? I say, yes, because I've been there, I know the situation. And that's why in life, when somebody is going through something, you've never been through it, shut up. Shut up. You don't have the knowledge, you don't have the experience to talk. A lot of people just talk bluntly, stupidly. No, shut up, you've never been there. I've been there, I saw 50% never make it at the beginning. Later, they eventually die, most of them will die. But I gave them $3,000 and he was shocked. He comes back and he slashed my commission two quarters later. So I told the CFO, I said, hey, this is not right. The CFO said, I will talk with him. He did it again, and I told him, I'm done. I left. I just quit. At that point in time, I was making $149,000. We're talking about 2002. $149,000. Then I said, I'm done. I left. I came back. I went to look for another job. I went to Nigeria, tried to do some business in Nigeria, and it just did not work. There was no future there. Massive corruption, just crime. I just like, forget this. I'm out of here. Came back to the US. Then I worked for a company through Manpower called Good Technology. Good Technology was the best then when it comes to handheld phones. Good had one of the best when it comes to handheld phones then. But again, the boss there saw my Corvette one morning and tried to fire me. And I was like, wow, this is really unusual. And somebody from his team, from the finance team, came up to me and said, Eru, they're going to let you go. Because now, I was working through Manpower as a temp. The guy tells me, has God works? A recruiter it tells me on Monday, I was going to get fired on Friday. A recruiter sees my resume, calls me on a Tuesday to a company called Postini. I go to Postini that Tuesday for an interview. They did a background check, cleared the background check. On Friday, I told them I quit. They were shocked. They said, why did you quit? I said, I know you guys were going to fire me, so for no reason. And they were shocked, and I left. And the lady Manpower said, you are so right. I don't know why this guy wanted to fire you. Your performance for the last 6 months have been excellent. This is a surprise. I said, well, I know he got jealous when he saw my yellow Corvette and he was shocked. How could I be driving a Corvette? But he does not know how the Corvette came about. So I left, I went to Postini. I was at Postini working in the accounting team, helping them with their collection. There was a lady there called Allison, and we both were in the collection team. Allison was very aggressive. Allison would harass the customers. That's part of collection. Pay now, I'm going to get this and all. That was, which most collectors do. If you owe money and collectors have gone after you, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, and Eru, a quick pause is like I'm dealing with that in my current tech sales role at my company, Bespin. And we have the operations team, and they come to me as the seller, and like they're not paying their bills. So that's a good point that you hit on, is that even in sales too, you have to deal with collecting payments, and that's not always pretty. But anyways, back to the story.
Yeah. So, but the way I collected the money, we were all sitting down in the big, because Postini there was a startup company, all in one big floor, all sitting down there. And the way I talked to the customers, the accounting manager was wondering, will this guy ever make it? But he does not know my background of what I've done. So eventually, after 1 month, I think I brought about $2 million, and they were shocked. And the next month, and again, that's how sales work. People want to go close deals in one day. No, it does not work. You build the relationship, build it, and trust comes with that relationship. When trust comes, then they respond and they pay the money. When I came in there, I had no relationships with these people. I had to build that relationship over 3 weeks as quick as I could. Right after that, the cash flow started to come. And the same thing in sales, which we'll talk about later. But it's all about relationship and trust. If there's no relationship established, forget about how great you are, how skillful you are, does not matter. Relationship is for the long run. It's not for just today. No, for the long run, longevity. It's all about longevity in sales. At the end of the day, they trust you, they believe in you, they're going to buy, period. There's no doubt about that. But I learned that on the collecting side before I moved to sales. So I knew that's the way to deal with individuals. So all of a sudden, an opportunity came. And another thing most people don't do, trying to go to the next level, you got to go talk to higher people above you. I was talking to the president. I was talking to finance guy. I said, hey, I need a job in sales. So I need a job in sales. You got to open your mouth. You got to speak. If you don't talk, how will they know what you need? It will never happen. I was talking to every person. Another thing is knowing the product. The next thing is I made friends with the sales engineers quickly. I listened to them when they're talking. how they're solving problems, and also knew the product. The product is key in sales. I don't care what you're selling. If you don't know the product, just pack your bag and just move away, period. Don't wait for the sales engineer to help you sell that product. You're wasting time. The sales engineer has his role, but you have your role also. You are more like a sales engineer, but not a full-fledged sales engineer. I knew the product. Luckily, we only had one product then at Postini, which was the antivirus anti-spam. Nothing as good as Postini back then. McAfee was the best. Sorry, Symantec was the best. Right after Symantec was Postini. We had people like Barracuda, which was then was trash. MX Logic, Proofpoint. No way. Postini had the best heuristic out there. Then every year at renewal, we raised the price 15 to 30% increase. People will call you, oh, I can't pay, I'm going to cancel. Boom. The next day they call you, please get me back on now. If you remember back in those days, spam and antivirus was a pain. You cannot have your company having a bunch of spam and a bunch of attacks, viruses, constantly. It was like normal. So if you never had a good antivirus and the spam system, you're dead. So people came back immediately, get me on a roll now. There was no talking about you're going to cancel, go where you're going. Our price was solid. So shortly after that, I established myself on the sales side. They got me on the sales team. I learned the product quick, made friends with the engineers, made friends with the top sales people, listened to what kind of tactics or techniques they were using, utilized myself, applied that to what I was doing. And it was great. So renewals, then we added one other product, which was called Instant Message. I know most people will not know what that is, just IM, Instant Messages then. Then we added another product called archiving. Archiving was going behind to archive your emails or archive. There was no thing like Drive back then. It was, we just archived the emails. So that really made Postini a 3-product company. And right after that, I think Microsoft had tried to buy Postini back then, but it never came true. And Google saw the customer base and the technology behind Postini, which was the best. And Google said, wow, we definitely need these guys. And that's how Google bought us. And that's how I transitioned to Google.
Wow. Okay. So Google acquired Postini.
Yes.
And then you became a Google employee. And we can
Yes.
talk about how you transitioned to selling Workspace. And eventually we became teammates. Workspace and Google Cloud was what we sold together. And so getting into like your first role in tech sales then was actually it was transitioning from a finance role, and you realized
Yes.
sales was what you wanted to do. What drew you to sales specifically? Because you were doing well in finance, you're really good at it, but what opportunity did you see for yourself in sales?
Any person who knows me, I like talking to people. I like it's like an equation. Like I said, I love mathematics. My dad was a mathematician, and that's why I got my skills. I developed it a lot later in life, very late. That's a different story. It's just about finding a solution. It's like I'm finding a solution. That's what sales is. When you talk to a customer, it's like, what's their pain point? How can I help them? Can I help them now? Maybe I can't now. We don't have the roadmap to get there. I like the data. Again, being on the sales side, I know on the finance side, there's a lot of data driven and stuff, but on the sales side is you get to be able to know what your data is all about. If you don't know what your data is, you're pretty lost in the sense that when we were at Google, Salesforce was garbage then, I got to tell you the truth. Because when we came to Google, it was like a startup where Google never trusted us that we're going to really go. Those Google Apps, that we were really going to go anywhere. But we had great managers like Michael Locke. I never will forget that guy. That guy is just amazing. He kind of made us believe that what we have is great and it's going to be great for the future. So going back to your question is, data, I love data. And coming from a finance place, when we got to Google, I could analyze my data, what accounts are good, because there were multiple accounts at the beginning. Eventually, they cleaned all, people at Google now won't experience what I'm talking about. They merged all these accounts. No, accounts were scattered all over the place. So we had to scrub the data. When they give you a book of business, you get to scrub it. Sometimes account is missing, but I've always kept a very steady balance in the sense that if one account goes out for my book of business, I can tell you in about 5 minutes. When I run a VLOOKUP with the previous data I had, I could tell you. Things like that, skills transferring from the finance experience to the sales experience, it's so crucial. It's not just selling stuff to the customer. This is the back end of the sales side. You have to be good. You have to be good. You have to know where your account is. You have to be able to focus to your manager. You have to be able to predict what the end of the year will be looking like. But those are the kind of models I build internally for myself. And that's what really drove me into the sales part. That's why I like the sales. Talking, data-driven, and just the ability to just do it on my own.
Yeah, we should start talking a bit about your experience at Google, and I have a lot of questions for you on it, but I will tell you that I remember how data-driven Google was, and they still are. And so what you're saying is, in a sales role, you can use data to really understand your book of business, your specific accounts, their financial health, maybe how large the deal size might be. And you can use data to better forecast or predict how you will perform in your year, and what your revenue is going to look like, which is really important to connect that data point up the chain to your manager to then communicate up to leadership. Am I missing any other areas where you use data, or would you say those are the core areas?
Those are the core areas in the sales room. Those are the core areas.
Okay.
You never would go wrong. Never would go wrong. Also, being, like I talked about earlier, knowing the product. Because when we got to Google, we started adding products. Encryption came later through Zik brought encryption. Then eventually we brought in ISPs like RingCentral, a couple of other companies we did bring. We started bringing other products onto the team. So now we have a big scale slew of products to sell. So it was not just when we came to Google, we changed it from archiving to Google Message Discovery, GMD.
Okay, let's work together to paint a picture for the audience of Google and Google Cloud and what it looks like. So, when I was selling at Google, and when I had the blessing and the privilege of working together with you, I was selling Google Cloud, which is, an ecosystem of hundreds of tools that are the building blocks for applications for engineers to use to build infrastructure, database, networking, storage, and things like that. So it's infrastructure as service, platform as service, data analytics, stuff like that. And you were selling Google Workspace, which is, and I'd love for you to describe Workspace and what it is, but high level, it's a SaaS application. Everyone knows Gmail, and so can you talk about the world that you lived in when you were at Google and what you're selling?
There was nothing like Workspace. Workspace was the best, and I think till today, it's still the best collaborative tool. Talking about how you collaborate in Gmail, in Docs, video conferencing, security. There's just nothing. It's just, you have to use Workspace to really understand Workspace. What really amazed me most was the security behind Workspace. The security behind Workspace was just amazing. Most people don't really know about the security till you really deep dive into the security, where you had the ability to detect stuff before they start getting into your environment. Workspace then, I've been gone for about 2 years now, had the best. It just, and that's what most of the customers eventually knew, because today there's all kinds of docs. Docs are everywhere. People using different kinds of document sheets, people using video conferencing, there's Zoom there. But again, the bottom line goes to security. How secured are these services? So I think Workspace is still the best. And just the way you collaborate in Workspace, you just can't beat that. It's just one of the best.
And so you worked for Postini, which it sounds like was an aspect of the security behind Workspace. So
that's correct.
Google had Workspace, or what they called Google Apps, you were saying. So it's called Google Apps now it's Workspace. And they saw Postini, they acquired Postini to bolster their security strategy. Is that accurate? Anything else you want to expand on how?
And the customer base, because the Postini customer base was just ridiculous, because we covered the whole world, coming to companies like UBS, Merrill Lynch, Fidelity. We had all the big boys. It just, the customer base was solid. When I mean solid, was solid because of the infrastructure behind, the heuristic then behind Postini was just, you just could not take it away. Nobody could come close. Yeah.
So Google not only bought Postini for the technology, but maybe most importantly, for the customer base. All of a sudden, they have, by acquiring Postini, access to these monster companies, which is, it's interesting to think of how larger companies do that. Obviously, companies like Oracle, other big companies, make strategic acquisitions to not just get the technology and engineering talent and the people capital, but access to a new customer base and more revenue. So, okay, I wanted to ask you about your first manager at Google. It seems like you were saying they were an incredible manager that shaped you in your career. Is that true? And could you tell me about why they were a great manager?
My first manager at Google was my manager that we brought from the Postini side.
Okay.
Lisa Sosa, I remember her name, Lisa Sosa. God bless that lady any day. She was just amazing in the sense that she knew how to manage people. She was very secure of herself. She knew the product. She never micromanaged the team. I could speak for myself. I never saw her micromanage. Very few I saw her micromanage somebody. Never micromanaged us. Treated us with respect. We just got the job done. That's one thing I notice. When you micromanage people, people don't perform well. Again, there are two things about micromanaging. A person not disciplined enough needs to be micromanaged. That's the way I look at it. But if you are disciplined, a manager should have that intellect that such a person does not need them. Most managers feel threatened when the employee don't go to them and ask them questions, or they love that that the employee is coming to them and they're giving advice to the employee. Most of my managers, I knew the product, there was nothing to go talk about with the manager. Closing the deals, there was nothing to talk about. Very rare at Google, I went to my manager to ask for help. Very, very rare. And again, I want to say another thing, which is crucial for people coming into these new roles as well, or people in the role. You have to know people in legal, period. You have to be friends to people in support, period. You have to be friends with people in order management. You have to be friends with professional services. You have to be friends with a bunch of people. You know why? It's not just getting the deal. The deal comes in and there's a problem. What are you going to do? If you don't have that relationship established with these other cross-functional teams, you're dead. I'm sorry. No good deal. When we're talking about this, no good deal just comes and goes through. It's a lie. No, there's always hiccups when it comes to deals. There's always a problem.
I'm
Could be
dealing with
legal.
it right now, Eru. After this live interview, I've got a couple hiccups I got to deal with. So, anyways, you're exactly right.
There's no deal. There's no deal that just comes through. But when you have established these cross-functional relationships with other teams, they know you. They put a priority because now they know you on a one-on-one level. You're going out for lunch with them. You're doing things, talking to them. How can you help them as well? How can they help you? It's a two-way street. So all my deals at Google, I remember I had one, and I think no deal is going to ever beat that deal. Maybe now. 51 symbol approvals. 51 symbol approval. I had that deal.
Wow.
Yeah.
And
51 engineering approved, not once, 3, 4, 5, 6 times. Marketing approved. Legal, a bunch. Oh my goodness, 51 symbol approvals. But that's what I'm saying. You, as a salesperson, you have to have a relationship with all these cross-functional. That's what most salespeople forget. They just think, oh, just my manager should go bad for you. No, it's beyond that. Your manager is great, but you have to have that relationship with them and push. Your manager is pushing on this side, you're pushing on this side. Both teams come together, the deal gets closed. Period.
Yeah. What a great insight on closing deals. There's hiccups. There's all these approvals with the legal, maybe marketing. The customer might want something a little different that's non-standard. And Eru was using the term Simba, which was an internal system at Google that is used for getting approvals and getting deals done. So cool little look under the hood. Eru, I wanted to ask you about your experience at Google. And there's so much we could talk about. You would probably give this audience an insider look at some pretty cool things. So let's try and do that. One question though is, what were some of your favorite aspects of the culture at Google?
Don't do evil. Don't do evil was one of be googly. That was it. And I remember when we came is don't complain, fix it. When we came, we said, oh, this is bad. They said, okay, now we could get a high school kid to come in here and identify what the problem was. So instead of complaining, come up with an idea to fix it. That's one, and I took that very seriously at Google, and even till tomorrow in my lifetime. It's not about complaining. Any person can complain, oh, the window is broken. No. How do we fix the broken window? That's what we should be talking about. It's not the window is broken. How do we fix the broken window? How can we get around fixing the broken window to make it work for us? That's the key.
So one of the principles at Google that you loved was essentially taking ownership. You see a problem, you don't complain, you propose a solution, and yeah, you're probably going to collaborate with some other smart people like yourself to get a solution in place. What was your experience with the caliber of people at Google? I found I got a little imposter syndrome at first where I'm like, do I even belong here? Because like these people are so smart, and people like you who have these unbelievable stories. What was your impression of the people like your peers that you were around?
I saw a lot of intelligent folks, a lot of very, very powerful minds, very powerful, very creative, just powerful, just coming up with ideas. When we go into the room, brainstorm, what can we do? We tried this, it does not work. We tried this. People see a lot of things. We tried a lot of things, but people, they only see the end result of what works. But before this, we've tried A, B, C. A/B testing. It's like, try this, it does not work, it failed. I remember one of my bosses then, Thomas Goran, he always say, the earlier you fail, the better you are. If you're going to try something, you better fail early. You got to fail early and don't waste your time. So, we tried a lot of things. A good amount of them did not work, but a good amount of them brought tremendous result upside to what we did.
So you're saying a lesson learned was fail early, like the
very early.
And so Google, what I found is embraces failure. Like we had
to
fail, didn't we? So that was a pretty good thing. Were there any other aspects of Googliness that stood out to you? You know, because everyone's like, what's Googliness? They look for Googliness. And were there any other specific things that maybe made you googly, or that you appreciated about the term Googliness and what that meant?
It's just the respect for one another. When the respect for one another was very important there, was very important overall, was very important. In as much as, you know, I had my own drawbacks I had some very bad managers and the experience was bad. But overall, the respect for one another was solid, was very solid.
Yes.
Yeah, the respect for one another.
You hit on a good point, like having been at Google myself, not as long as you, but for 3 years, you know, I had some great managers. I also had some managers that just weren't, like, I won't say the best I ever had. And that's the reality. Like, even a company like Google, nothing's perfect.
Nothing.
It's a world of imperfect people. And so is Google. But man, I really enjoyed some of the benefits on a different note.
Yes.
You get paid well, right? And we get reserve stock units, get some stock, right?
Yes.
And then there's the other benefits, but like, how would you don't have to like share anything you're not comfortable with, but like overall, what are your thoughts on like the level of pay that you get at Google and the stock versus other companies? Do you think they do a pretty good job of taking care of their people?
Overall, I'm a little biased when it comes to that. I think it depends on your manager too. Again, goes back to your manager. Your manager could make you or break you, period. That's just the way it works at Google. Depends on your manager, your relationship with your manager. Your manager could make you or break you.
So you went through a lot of performance reviews, right? At Google, we would have perf.
Yes.
And then we'd have to, could you walk the audience through kind of like what that was like? I mean, a lot of people felt like there's definitely pressure, right? Google's a high performance place. They expect results. But what was your experience with just that overall process of perf or performance reviews?
Perf was a measuring stick. That's how I look at it. Every quarter matters on the sales side. If you did not meet your number when we originally came, and they kind of moved this a little bit further, your performance has to be excellent every quarter. Next quarter, we'll look at it. So if you've done bad in 2 quarters, the door is pretty open for you to walk in. They're going to let you go. That's just the way it works.
Yeah.
I was very fortunate. I performed excellent all through my 14 years at Google.
Unbelievable.
I performed over and beyond all through my 14 years. I knew I had no choice but just to outperform constantly. And that was God's grace. And that's why, again, you know, like I say, my Bible year, God really blessed me that I was never on probation. Nobody, they only called me once when I had a bad manager, and she said I needed a coach. And my mind is, a coach? What are we going to talk about? And the coach, not that any person does not need a coach, but the way it was set up, I knew she was trying to ridicule me. And we got into this meeting with the coach. And in 5 minutes, the coach told me to explain what I do and how I close my deals. And I walked the coach from start to finish in less than 5-10 minutes. The coach said, can you just go? I don't think I need to coach you. You really get what it takes to close the deal. And but that was from a bad manager.
Eru, can you walk us through, can you walk us through start to finish how you close deals? That's actually a pretty cool insight, if you can remember, because I know you're tired.
You don't forget most of these things. The thing is, typical example, a customer, I called the customer for 1 whole year. 1 whole year. In sales, you can't give up. People give up too easily. But this comes to my background of coming into the country, just struggling. You get to keep punching the door. Good example, I'll go back to the story quickly. Somebody that has a sign, you have gas, let's go back to the old school, not electric car now. You have gas in your car, your tank is full. you're driving. You see a gas station. Do you care about the gas station? No way. You get to half tank. When your tank was full, I had a sign up there saying, buy gas, please, buy gas, buy gas. You see me, you don't care about me. Your tank gets halfway. I keep raising my sign, buy gas, buy gas. Not yet. You get a quarter. You keep seeing me, buy gas, buy gas. Who do you think when you get to empty, you're going to go to? You're going to remember me. I've been the guy waving to you, buy gas, buy gas, buy gas. Other people don't, they wave once and they drop, but I kept waving. You're going to come back to me.
And you were friendly too.
Sorry?
I'm sure you were friendly about it too. You weren't too.
Oh, with joy.
I'm here. I got your back. I can help.
Exactly. With joy. I waved and waved. I called this guy for 1 year. One day he picked up the phone. I never forget. 4:35, I think about 4:35, just before 5. He picks up the phone. Hello? I said, hi, this is Eru. He goes, how can I help you? I said, I've been trying to get a hold of you, but thanks for picking up the phone. That's how I started the conversation. We talked about politics. We talked about soccer. We talked about golf. We talked about family. We spent an hour. We're not even talking about Google right now, product. We just kept talking. And I told him, I said, hey, this is what we do. This is the product we have. We feel you will need it. Because I've been fortunate to work for companies that people need the product. Like in Google, you need the product then when I was there. You need it. We're not forcing you. It's just a matter of time. Something's going to hit your environment. You're going to come to me. And I told him straight out, you need the product. He goes, why? I said, because of X, Y, Z. Security-wise, you're open. You're not collaborating well. You're spending money on users who don't need to be there. So, and the key thing in sales, I never forget that, you have to bring in a partner. Most people think they can do it themselves. I don't know the culture now. A partner is a lot more helpful than doing it yourself. The reason why is, like for this customer, I brought in Worcester. God bless Worcester team, Matt Worcester. I brought in Matt
Shank?
No, Matt Shank was there, but the founder of Worcester.
And quick pause, guys. Like Worcester is an implementation partner and consulting partner for Google Workspace, right, Eru? Just to give context. Yeah.
Right. So I brought in Matt Worcester. They got Postini. They got this guy a demo account. They got him all what he needed, because I can't easily scale without a partner. That's another thing most people fail to realize in a sales role. I had Sada as well, but Matt Worcester was my main go-to. To scale as a sales guy, you get to bring in the partner team to help you scale. If not, you're wasting your time. And bring in a good partner who really understand the product and are willing to sacrifice for you. Matt came in and his team, they took care of business. Before we noticed, the deal was about 1.something million.
Wow.
Like that. But it took a year to get this customer. And it took us about 6 months to do the implementation, because we had to strategically line everything up for them to get going.
And
most people, go ahead.
Were they migrating from Microsoft, the competition, to
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. But that's what it takes. Relationship.
Yeah. I always told myself that with enough persistence, the impossible becomes possible. And I quote that all the time. It's a quote from the CEO of Sun Microsystems, Vinod Khosla. And clearly that's something that has been embodied in your life, to go from homeless to eventually finance and breaking into tech sales and making hundreds of thousands of dollars. That didn't happen overnight. It took grit, passion, perseverance, and showing up. And then to close a X $1 million deal after over a year of reaching out and just being the friendly guy waving at the gas, right? That was such a good metaphor. So if anything, that is so encouraging to me to just keep showing up and to just keep going.
Peter.
Now, I know Eru, we have, I always say Eru, by the way. Would you prefer, is it Eru?
Oh, anyone is good.
Yeah,
I know you're talking to me.
Okay, we got 5 minutes left. This has been so packed with value, and I even teared up. We had a beautiful moment. I've never had a moment like that. That was so authentic and from the heart. I'm so glad you talked about that experience with those kids, taking them, I think you said, to the morgue. So I want to finish up on any other, words of encouragement you have for the audience, especially around someone who has been trying to achieve a goal for a while, particularly getting into tech sales. We know some people that I've introduced you to that have been for a long time. They see this opportunity to get into tech sales and open up opportunities, and hasn't come easy. But what would you say to them?
Like I say, you got to believe outside yourself. It's not you. It got to be beyond you. It's not you that is going to make it happen. In my case, I believe in Christ. That's where my strength comes from. Eru can't do it alone. It's like I was talking about the partner. You can't do it alone. The partner needs to help you get there. Most individuals are always thinking, oh, I'm smart. I got it down. I know it. I have all these certificates. I've seen a lot of people at Google that never moved anywhere. They just could not do anything. I saw a lot of smart people, but they just could not get their deals across because they wanted to do it by themselves. They felt so pride. It's so powerful.
Yes.
Pride. You got to take that pride away. Humble yourself down. Calm down. Give an opportunity for somebody to help you. Don't be ashamed. They're going to laugh at you. So what? You're getting your deals done. You're getting your career going. Open your mouth. Another thing, you got to love yourself too. Some people are too hard on themselves. They just like beat themselves down. No, you can't go forward with beating yourself down. It does not work. You got to embrace yourself. You got to love yourself. You got to try. You got to just keep trying, because when you love yourself, other people see it and they want that love. I remember back in Google, people would come and sit. I remember we were 3 of us, Paul, Sonia, Irina, I can't remember Irina's last name. We had a small cubicle there. And we were always laughing, but we were closing deals, but we were happy. People would just say they just want to, when they're stressed out, they just come and, they're not doing anything, they just sit down there. And we're working. But because of the joy and the love, which most people don't have, you will never succeed. You will never progress. You got to love yourself.
Wow.
Another thing is, go ahead.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
Period. You got to love yourself. Don't think when you buy the car, when you buy the house, when you take the trip, all these conditions, before you get happy. That's a deadline. You got to be happy in the moment you are in. Like I said earlier, when I was homeless, if you saw me, you would think, wow, why is this guy happy and he's homeless? No, that's the joy. That's my position now. I'm going to remain there for a short time. It's going to change. I got to be happy in every moment. There are goals, there are things I want to get in life. I've not gotten them yet. I'm still working towards them. But I'm happy as we speak, as we do this interview. I'm happy because I know I'm going to go to the next level.
I'm happy too that I've been able to share this. Teammate and a dear friend. Okay, let's finish up with this. You mentioned to me, you sent a picture of your Corvette, and originally, I think you told me you saw this Corvette and you weren't near being able to afford it or have it. And after 3 years, you had it. Walk us through when you first found that Corvette and saw it, and the journey to making that dream a reality.
So in 1997, I was driving on the Freeway 101, Northern California, and I saw this red Corvette. All of a sudden, it just like zoomed past me. I'd already seen it in the magazines, but never seen it physically. and the thing just drove by me. It's like, wow. So I raced towards to really look at it, and it's like, wow, what a new body style. So I said, so I went right to the dealership because that was back then. They gave me the catalog. I take the catalog, I take it home. I tore it apart and I put it in the bathroom. Every morning as I brush my teeth, I look up. I say, I'm going to get you. I say, by God's grace, I'm going to get you someday. Again, at Google, you got to post your dream so that it can hit you every day. You don't just have the dream in your mind. No, that does not work. Put it somewhere that you see it. You can't run away from it. You got to see it constant. It got to be hitting you constantly. That's the only way to me, every person does it differently. I got to see my dream in front of me. And I'll go to the dealership. Everybody knew me in the dealership, from the finance manager to the guys watching the cars to the mechanics. Everybody knew me because I keep going there. I will test drive, I will go. Test drive, I will go. For 3 years, I was looking and going. But again, that's life. You got to do all. And eventually, one day, I drove there, and the guy, oh, Eru, are you driving today? I said, maybe. They said, no, you're going to drive today. One of the sales guys. He goes, Lou was his name. Say, you're going to drive today. I'll be back. Let me take this guy. This guy gets into the car, drives. I think the car had like 1 or 2 months. He drives the car for 1 mile, came back. I don't know what happened. Lou came to meet me. I was sitting down on the stairs now. He goes, hey, let's go. I got into this car. It was a stick shift, even better because I've been driving the automatics. I never felt the car driving the automatic, and I felt the stick. I drove it. It's like, wow. I said, this is amazing. I just had a peace in me. We go back to the dealer, and I drove the car out of the dealership. When you hit a dream, you will never believe you've gotten there. You would never, ever believe I got there. I just could not believe the dream. But it took me 3 years of looking face to face to get that car. Yesterday, I was talking to a guy, and the guy had seen the Corvette. That was way where we live. And he goes, I told him the same story, and he goes, do I still feel the same feeling about the car? I said, it's just a car. I don't have any material thing attached to it because of, like I talked about, the kids who have passed away. It's just a car. There's nothing attached to it. It looks brand new. If you see it, it has 90 from, I bought it when it was 5 miles, and now it's 91. I drive this thing a lot, when I mean quality driving, not just driving. But there's no attachment to it because who knows how long I'm going to be on Earth. I bought it to use, not bought it to treasure. You can't treasure things. That's what I want to leave people with here. You can't treasure things on Earth and hold on to things. No, you got to be loose. You got to let things go. Things can't control you. It's all about, these are worldly things, but we are yet to use them when we have the opportunity. That's what I'm trying to say.
What a great note to end on the power of creating a vision, a dream, and then having the ability to feed yourself with imagery. Like you literally had a picture of your dream car and had it posted. I think you said it in your bathroom. You were able to look at it every day.
Every day.
So powerful. There is something to be said for feeding the mind
with
imagery. I remember when I wanted to work at Google, I spent 3 months preparing, talking to people, networking, and I envisioned in the theater of my mind being in the office, having some of the food, maybe closing a deal. So I envisioned it that way. And we combine that with your faith in God, which carries you something greater than yourself, and just being pleasantly persistent. And those are my own words. You didn't necessarily use pleasantly persistent, but you're saying just never give up, keep punching. And you bring all of these things together, and along with talking to a lot of people. And guys, you can bring your greatest dreams into reality and create your own underdog story in tech sales and in life. So Eru, thank you. Thank you to the audience who showed up live. We have live folks here. We had 10 or more people at one time. We still have 5 here. And thank you to the people who show up in the future as this floats out in the evergreen YouTube sea, because this video is going to be out there on YouTube immediately after this. Eru, are you okay with folks reaching out to you on LinkedIn if
yes,
for mentorship?
Oh yes, definitely.
What a blessing to have you. And I am so grateful. I learned so much, and I'm going to re-watch the game tape. I'm going to re-watch this whole conversation myself. Guys, to your success in tech sales and in life, happy selling and happy living. And we'll see you in the next one.
Cheers.
Cheers, guys.